They are used to being these like high functioning, like type A, but then they have a baby. They're like, oh my gosh, what's just happened? This is the thing that I've wanted for so long, but it's forced them to slow down. They've gone from this working life where we're told we can do anything, right, as women. And then we become a mother and we realize actually we can do it all, but just not at the same time. There's this whiplash feeling, and a lot of women are feeling out of their depth. They're thinking, how do I do this now? How do I slow down? And they feel unsafe in slowing down.
Yeah.
But the amount of times that I have said to women, you need to stop going to the gym every single day and doing HIIT workouts.
Yeah.
You need to stop calorie counting and trying to lose weight. Your body is actually in a survival state, and we need to signal to the body that it is safe.
The silent unraveling of identity, the hyper independence that so many of us wear like a badge of honor, and what it actually takes to come home to your body again. If you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, you're eating clean, working out, showing up, but deep down you're anxious, numb, or exhausted, this episode will land, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop. And sometimes you just need someone to say, you don't have to do it all anymore. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. And I feel like it's such a great conversation to have around women's health and how we can kind of support ourselves as well. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am so excited to be here. And it's a bit of a full circle moment for us.
Oh my God, it really is. And I feel like we'll touch on that as we kind of go through. Yeah. But yes, we've known each other met I think about 5 years ago.
Yep.
So yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So glad to be here.
Yeah. Excellent. So you're one of the founders of Maia Clinic, which is all around women and supporting women's health, especially like mothers as well. Can you talk me through a little bit about what is it that you do and how you support women as well?
Yep. So Maia Mothers is my clinic. It was founded we're coming up to 4 years ago. So I opened it around 6 months after I had my first baby, which was a lot. Don't really recommend. But I was just fueled by a passion to create a space to support mothers, essentially. So I had just had my first baby. I had been a clinical nutritionist for a good 4 or 5 years at that point, practicing privately. But I opened this clinic because there was no space that I could see, at least locally, that actually supported the mother through her transition from maiden to mother, and something that we call matrescence, which is that transitional period and identity shift when you have a baby, and every single time. And I was going through that myself, and I thought, why is there no support here when you have so much support in pregnancy and there's all these appointments all the time, checking in on baby, checking in on you. And then when you have the baby, it's like you have the baby and you have a one appointment at 6 months postpartum. 6 weeks postpartum. And it's like, hey, you're good to go. You can have sex again. See you later. And it's like, that's all that there is. And I'm just like, hang on a second. And as I was going through this journey myself, I was like watching these women around me go, really struggling just with the enormity of it all, and the huge identity shift and the physical depletion that was happening. So I call it a download, but it was like this idea that came to me like not out of nowhere. I always wanted to open up a clinic that was multimodality. I just didn't know what that looked like. I wanted to do that since I was about 17. But I had this kind of download one day. It was like, you need to open up a clinic for mothers. So I was like, right, let's do it. And so it was one of those things that all the doors just like open, flowed open. And it was really, really like kind of quick in how it just all manifested and happened. So now, fast forward 4 years, I'm a nutritionist, clinical nutritionist, and we have a team of, I think we're at about 17 at the moment. We're a multimodality clinic. We have the modalities of nutrition, naturopathy, acupuncture, remedial massage. We have Reiki. We have midwifery, lactation support, myotherapy, psychology. So we have this array of health professionals who are passionate about supporting women in this perinatal space. So in the space, even in the fertility space, and then the pregnancy, and then postpartum, and then into motherhood. And I would say we see a lot of clients who are in those first probably 5 years or so of motherhood, and who are growing their families. And so we support women and their families, their children, their babies, their husbands as well, through that that time frame. And the beautiful thing is now that we're 4 years old, we actually have been supporting families through 2 babies and some of them even 3 babies, so which is super cool, like having that full circle moment to support them through their fertility journeys, through their pregnancies, through their postpartums. We offer mothers groups too, so seeing them in their mothers group, and then there's so many coming back for their 2nd or 3rd babies, so it's like such a privilege to watch that unfold.
I love that you've actually created this as well. Like I'm not a mother myself, but I've got like so many people around me that have gone through that stage of life and are currently in that stage of life, and just seeing them evolve, and like as you said, the identity piece I think is a massive one for women. When they're by themselves or in that relationship, and then all of a sudden like now they have to wear a different hat in a way, and they're like, how do I now cope with everything plus all the hormonal changes at the same time? And so I imagine like that can be quite a challenging like time for women.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge, and I think it's huge for the modern day woman as well, because we do wear so many hats even before we become a mum. We have a full life, and generally these days there are 2 people in a family. Like, if there's partners, there's both of them are working. It's dual income households. And so we are working, we have climbed the ladder in our careers, whatever that looks like, or we've opened our business or whatever. And our lives are really full with our work and our friends and whatnot. And then we're used to this pace. We're used to this fast pace that we are living at. And then we have a baby, and a lot of women get whiplash. They get not physically, not literally, but it's like they get whiplash because they are used to being these like high functioning, like type A, like we see a lot of these like beautifully successful in the world of, their careers so far, and they've got their house and they've got this and that. But then they have a baby, they're like, oh my gosh, what's just happened? This is the thing that I've wanted for so long, but it's forced them to slow down.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they've gone from this working life where if they just wanted to climb the ladder, they just try harder. If they wanted to get the raise or the salary, the increase in salary or the promotion, they just try harder. When you have a baby, it doesn't work like that. There's a lot less that is in our control. And so we're used to being so in control of our lives in many ways, and we're told we can do anything, right, as women. And then we become a mother and we realise actually we can't do it all at once. We can do it all, but just not at the same time. And so, there's this whiplash feeling, and a lot of women are feeling out of their depth. They're thinking, how do I do this now? How do I slow down? And they feel unsafe in slowing down. But their baby's asking them to do that. Their baby, the pace of newborn life and the pace of having a baby is slowing. And that's what
surrender.
It's surrender. Surrender is the word that comes up so often in clinic and in our mothers groups, and it's unfamiliar. And that releasing of control, it's scary for a lot of women. So we are here to, hold those women through that process, but it's something I see every single day at work.
I feel like as a woman, like as you said, like you're climbing that corporate ladder or whatever it is, and we're taught that we have to do it all kind of in a way and ourselves. And so in a way we've built this hyper independence person where we can do all the things, and if we ask for help or ask for support, it's essentially a sign of weakness. And so it's a lot of unlearning at the same time to go, do you know what? I can't do this all by myself, and I don't want to do this all by myself. And like, how can I now ask for help and that support and that permission piece and surrender into whatever's happening around me at the same time?
Oh God, I see this so often and have been through it myself as well, right? We are conditioned, and it's so deeply ingrained within us that we don't even realize how much resistance we have to asking for help, because we really have been conditioned to believe that it is failure, it is weakness, it is if you ask for help, there's this discomfort and this, what will people think? Will they think that I'm not cut out as a mother? Will they think that I can't do it all? Where previously in my career I have been the do-it-all person. People come to me because I can do it all and I do it well. And so, as you say, it's that hyper-individualism. Like we've been, conditioned our whole lives to believe that. Sorry. And then when we do become mothers, as I said, the pace slows, and And there are challenges. And, you know, we're not meant to raise our children in these silos that we're currently living in. We're not meant to raise our children in isolation. But so many women are isolated. And I guess I always come back to, I'm in such a privileged position in the line of work that I do because I sit with women day in and day out, whether it's within our mothers groups, whether it's one-on-one when I'm in consultation, and I get to hear the isolation. I get to hear the struggles. I get to hear what is really going on beneath the surface and how that actually also manifests in physical, you know, illness, in gut issues, in hormone issues, in, you know, all the different things. And there's a lot of it happening, and so that's why I'm like, wow, like we need to come together and really recognize that everybody's going through this. And that's what I do. I champion that message of like, you are not alone as a mother. Yeah. You are most likely going through all of the highs and the lows of motherhood, just like your next door neighbor is, just like all of the other mothers that you see, even on Instagram, and even when they portray a life that is easy or they've got all their shit together or whatever. The thing is, though, everyone's struggling with something. Yeah. And so we're all thinking that we're, you know, in isolation, we're struggling, there's something wrong with us because we're finding it harder or whatever. But actually what I see is that there's many people going through that. And so I try to kind of close that gap. And we do it a lot in our mothers groups where we talk about the highs and lows. And every single week we talk highs and lows of the week. And the lows, like the highs are amazing and we celebrate the highs, but the lows is where that beautiful vulnerability occurs and where that connection occurs, because women are in our mothers groups, like authenticity is key. Yeah. And I say at the very start, like, we are here to be real. Like this is not a space where you need to pretend. This is a space where you can fully be yourself. And there's a lot of tears and there's a lot of realness. And I think that gives the next mother permission to do the same. And so we go through these lows and it's like, oh, I've had, you know, a really bad week of sleep. I've had a really bad week of trying to feed my baby. I've had a really bad week trying to figure out who I am now. I've had a bad week with my mood, whatever. And it's like, oh, me too. And it's like, oh my gosh, like we are all going through this. And there's a lot of things that contribute to it, but it's a big one is our conditioning and the society that we live in.
And I feel like we try to do things so much by ourselves and handle everything, but it's the space that you have where you, whether it's through friendship or mothers groups or family or whatever it is, where you feel so safe and so seen and so heard that it's okay for you just to go and let it all out or just take a big exhale or whatever it is, like. And that takes a lot to actually create and to build and have that safety. And I think spaces like yourself or when women come together in women's groups or circles or events or whatever it is, it's actually, you go there knowing that, hey, I can leave everything at the door because right now I'm stepping into a space that there's no judgment. I can just be whoever I am and whatever I need to be right in this moment, and know that you've got me, or, you know, whoever else is there to support, like that they've got you. And like, that's a huge piece. And I love, you know, going to events where it's solely women for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And that's in everything that I do and have cultivated in my business. That is the forefront of where, like, the vision is, I wanted to create a space where women could come into our clinic if they were coming in person, to come in, like, step into our clinic and feel this sensation of like, I can relax, I can be this like breath out, this sigh of relief. And that comes from like the energy that we have in there, the practitioners that are, you know, non-judgmental and always just going to have your back and just listen and validate you in whatever you're going through. But also, you know, the physical aesthetic of the clinic and the, you know, the smells and the music, like it all contributes to like, oh, you are safe here. Like it's designed to help your nervous system to relax and to really be seen and heard. And that's it. Like there's not a lot of spaces for the modern woman, the modern mother to actually relax and allow her nervous system to feel safe enough to be herself. And so, yeah, as you say, like, any space, the clinic space, our mothers groups, but also we do women's circles too for that exact reason. Women's circles for any woman, not just mothers. And I started those this year for that reason, because I'm like, we need more spaces like this where we can come and have that dedicated time to have that bit of like self-reflection, self-inquiry as women, that white space, that, you know, that space where we can go inward, connect with ourselves and our needs and desires, and say, what do I need right now? And am I getting that? Because life is so fast that we don't get the chance to do that.
Yeah,
and
it
that's
really
what I'm
is.
noticing. So I'm like, well, and I've had the benefit of attending these events and these circles and whatnot, and I'm like, it's magical. It should be a necessity for every single person, full stop, really.
Yeah.
But like women in general, with the way that our bodies work in
Yeah.
you know, that cyclical nature with our hormones, and the world is not designed for us. But the more that we can go inward and see how we can create a world to work with ourselves, whether it's we're women or we're mothers or whatever, it's so powerful. And so to create those spaces, I think we need more people creating these spaces for women.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like there's such a need. Like out of everyone I talk to, and even clients and even on podcasts, like the thing that resonates most with people is around connection and women feeling seen and heard.
Yep.
Like they're the biggest things, like whether that's in friends, whether that's in families, whether that's in work, whatever it is. Like I feel like we just have this like deep desire just to connect with people and to actually fully be seen and feel safe in that as well.
We're hardwired to.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And I think that's why so many women these days, like their nervous systems are so shot, because they are in that sympathetic state constantly. They don't realize it. They haven't been given the tools to map out their nervous system, understand what their nervous system is actually trying to tell them. So they get used to feeling in that state of fight or flight constantly. And it's because like we are not in spaces that help to co-regulate us.
Yeah.
We are hardwired as human beings to co-regulate with each other. There is nothing more powerful. Like, of course, breath and movement and all sorts of different things can help with our nervous system, but there's something just so powerful about being in the presence of someone else who is safe and connected and actually sees and hears you. And for a lot of people, they don't get that regularly. So it's human nature and it's foundational. Yet we are struggling to connect with others in that way. Often, I guess.
Yeah. You mentioned nervous system, and like I'm very passionate about this as well. How important is nervous system regulation? Or actually, how do you even tell if you've got a dysregulated nervous system? Like in general, full stop. Question mark. Yeah.
I teach a lot of nervous system regulation work, and through my clinical experience, I've been working in this clinical space for the last 10 years, right? And I've just realized over the years that like you can do all the things. You can eat right, you can take your supplements, you can do this, you can do that, but the underlying driver is nervous system, right? If you have a dysregulated nervous system and you are trying to heal your gut or heal your hormones or whatever, it's not going to work. Or it will work short term and then it will go back to what it was. And so that applies to women and the mothers that I work with now. It is the central bit that we work on first. So to tell whether, you know, what your nervous system is doing, I teach about nervous system mapping, essentially. So understanding, I use a lot of the polyvagal theory, but understanding where is my nervous system, like getting people to understand their own cues around what a sympathetic response looks like, whether it's fight or flight, and even within that sympathetic response, the fight energy and the nervous system response versus flight is slightly different. So even like understanding within your own body what that feels like, the fight might be like underneath the fight energy is like this irritation, this like rage, anger, this like, oh, like I'm so frustrated. Like it's an activated energy. It's like I always think of it like it's a hot energy. It's an energy that needs to be moved. And it's like that snapping, irritable, like, you know, ragey, like type of energy where you wanna punch something or you wanna get it out. And that then from that physiological point of view also looks like increased heart rate, like your body is literally getting ready to fight. So it's perceiving a threat and it's going, right, to survive this threat, we need to activate this fight response. which means like your brain sends this signal to the rest of your organs and your body to go, right, get the adrenaline and the cortisol pumping. We need to move here. We need to be able to fight for our lives. And that then, increased heart rate, increased breath rate. You might feel a sense of heat. You have this surge of energy, essentially. Yeah. It's like a Hulk-like energy for some people. That's how they describe it. Or it might be for women, it might be like just snapping or being like everyone's annoying them, everyone's pissing them off. Their husband breathing at night is annoying. Like little things like that, right? Little things like, or your toddler bloody has
irritability.
And it just like irritates you way more. And so that's that fight energy versus then same sympathetic response, but flight is more like, I need to move. Like it's a running away energy, right? It's like, it's a more anxious energy rather than like a ragey, irritable energy. Yeah. So it's like that, oh my gosh, I can't stop. I need to keep moving. And in the everyday life, again, you're going to have this like increased heart rate, like your blood goes to your limbs to make sure that you can run away. Again, your nervous system is perceiving a threat, but the threat usually is not actually there. The threat is the toddler. The threat is the email from the boss. The threat is a text message, whatever. The threat is, just normal things. The chaos in the living room that your kids have formed across 3 minutes. And the body goes into this state where, it has to dispel this energy. It has to move. And so I teach a lot of like, okay, understanding what are your cues. And there's also thoughts and emotions and behaviors that go with each of those. And how do we dispel that energy? How do we move it through our bodies? And then how do we come back into ground? So it's like a 2-part process. And that takes time, right? It's like understanding, because one person, it's going to feel different probably to the next. So it's going to take time to map that out, but also to understand the individual triggers as well. And then we've got the dorsal vagal shutdown, which is the freeze response, which is where it's almost like you spend too long, this is like over a long period of time, in that sympathetic, that you go into like that activated response, then you go into shutdown mode. And that's like burnout for a lot of people. You can absolutely go through all of these in one day, but generally that like freeze response is going to come after a time in that activated response. I'm doing this because I'm imagining a ladder, and that's how I teach it as well with the polyvagal theory. And it's normal for our nervous systems to go up and down all day, but it's not normal for them to stay in a prolonged state when we're in one of those states. And again, I see it clinically all the time when mothers are coming in to me and they are in that shutdown phase and they're feeling depressed. Like that's where that depression can sometimes like stem from. And, in their blood work, they're depleted. Their hormones start to go offline, or they start to, miss cycles, or they start to have really painful periods or whatever. They start to have IBS issues because, their blood, their stomach acid isn't doing what it needs to do and breaking down their food. And it all starts to their neurotransmitter synthesis changes. Like, so they start to become really lethargic and have no energy. They're not motivated. They want to sleep all the time. They just feel really down, really apathetic, really numb. And what that looks like too is like numbing out. Like you want to just numb out. You want to just like avoid. You want to just like rot. That's a term that a lot of people use these days. It's just like you just want to like watch TV. You don't care what it is. Shut off, or we numb out on our phones or whatnot. So that's another really common thing. But the issue is where that's the nervous system. It is crucial for our survival, and it is built for our survival. And it's normal to go in and out of those states. But it's like, I teach women to like increase their window of tolerance. So to be able to come back into that state of regulation when they are feeling regulated, connected, like more at ease within their bodies. And it's beautiful work because it doesn't require anything apart from a self-awareness and then a toolkit, which I teach a lot in my programs and whatnot, a toolkit to take those tools and to bring you back into that regulated state more often.
I think back to like closing the loop of how we started, how I met you was actually when I think my journey of learning about nervous system regulation was actually from a conversation you and I had.
Wow.
Yeah, which is like 5 years ago. And I was very much in, not realizing this, but now looking back, I was very much in survival and I was like operating so heavily in that, but I was showing up for work. I was going to the gym. I was eating healthy. I was still like out socializing. I was doing all of the things that are meant to be healthy and normal for you, right? Yet when I had those moments by myself, I was like stressed, burnt out, anxious. I was like, I had multiple naps throughout the day. Like I was working from home. It was during COVID, which was in a way I was kind of grateful for, because I'd show up for a meeting and then I'm like, oh my God, I need to go have a nap. And I knew that I was just so fatigued, and I had started working with you to get support from a nutrition perspective and going, okay, what's going on here? Because I'm doing all the right things, right? And then it was around the time that my mum passed away, and I was like just dealing a lot with grief, and my body was just like stressed and anxious. And I remember having a conversation with you, and I like totally broke down, and you were like, just stop everything. Like literally just stop everything. Like this is your body trying to tell you something right now, and just listen to it. And so I took that as a massive permission piece to actually stop everything. Yeah. Like I stopped going to the gym. You're like, you can walk and you can do yoga, and that is it.
This is my prescription.
Yeah, but do you know what? It actually took someone to say that to me to actually go, this is not normal. Like, calm down. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. I know this isn't my baseline. I know this is like a period of my time. And then I just got so curious with like nervous system and how do I deal with stress and anxiety. And I started like going into breath work and learning from that perspective, and then mindset, and then more breath, like, you know, just going down that journey so much and getting curious with me. And yeah, now looking back, it was actually that conversation.
Wow.
Which is interesting because like I didn't realize this until I think I saw your name pop up on Instagram, and I was like, I know you. And then I was like, I always remember the conversation.
Yeah.
But that moment, that permission slip was then like totally changed so much for me in that. And yeah, as a woman that is trying to do it all, sometimes we just need someone to go, stop, take a breath. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And like tune in with yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, and that story, like, thank you for sharing that story. And I remember that. I remember that. And it's also a very common conversation that I would have in clinic. And I think it takes, sometimes we are so, you know, you can't see the wood for the trees. We are in our lives, so deep in our lives that we can't see the patterning that's happening. And it takes like a practitioner to take a really thorough, you know, case and go and start to get to know you and see your blood work and start to see how you respond to treatments and whatnot, and just see how that's all working, to go, hang on, this client needs, like they're actually in shutdown at the moment, or they are in burnout, like they're in survival, and I can see it, but I need to help them see it really. And so having those conversations is so crucial. And the amount of times that I have said to women, you need to stop going to the gym every single day and doing HIIT workouts. You need to stop calorie counting and trying to lose this weight, because your body is actually in a survival state, and we need to signal to the body that it is safe. And so by doing all this stuff, like, we're not signaling to the body that it's safe. Yet that is what we are told to do by like our culture as women. Like, go to the gym every day and work out really hard and do that HIIT workout, do this, you know, eat this way, take these supplements, blah, blah, blah. And on paper, it looks like, oh, I'm really healthy. But underlying that can be, there's a different story depending on what that nervous system is doing. So yeah, it's very, very common, and I still to this day, like, even more so carry that message with my clients and with mothers. Like, it's even like it's big, because she is stretched thin with kids. She is turned inside out by this transformation that happens, and she's just like, what is going on? And I'm there to go, well, this is what your nervous system is doing. There's actually nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. I think that's what we do. We blame, we self-blame and go, there's something wrong with me. Like, I'm broken. I'm so fatigued. I'm having multiple naps per day. Like, that's not normal. And so it's actually getting that permission slip from someone to say, actually, what would it be like if we didn't go to the gym every day? Like, let's imagine that. What would it be like? Only this week I had a conversation with a client who was trying to conceive, and my homework for her, she works for herself 6 days a week. And I said, in the next month, your goal is to figure out a day where you can have 2 days off a week, not one. And that's in your control because you own your business and your nervous system is in survival right now, and a baby is not going to come in when you are working so much, even though you love it, even though you've been doing this for a long time, even though it fills your cup, you are in survival state. And so I said, like, we need to condense your working hours. You're doing way too much and your body is not feeling safe enough. And that was being reflected by her hormones and by the way that she was feeling. And we had this really open and honest conversation. And I think, yes, my background is clinical nutrition. I do have a background in psychology too, but these conversations, like, they are so important. They go where they need to go, you know, in terms of like burnout, you know, nervous system, blood testing, gut testing, like it's whatever is needed, and often it's all of it.
And with women especially, and you mentioned cycles as well, how do we work with our cycle? Because like if you think about I'm just going to say someone that's working and a mum, right, where they're working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. They're probably going to the gym. They've even got to collect their kids from daycare or school or something like that, come home, and then they you know, cook and have to like them be the family, like the provide, or, you know, help out with family and things like that. And then on the weekends, it's kids sports and all these things. How, in moments like that, how do you work in with your cycle to understand exactly what it is that you need in that moment? And how do you intuitively listen to that at the same time? Or is that more planning as well? So
this is like a term that's used to describe this as like cyclic living is a term that's kind of thrown around, but essentially the crux of it is that you're understanding, this is if you're not on any birth control or any hormonal contraception, obviously, because that changes how your cycle goes. But when your hormones are just, you know, doing their thing, we generally have a 28 to 30 day cycle as women. That means that we're different on pretty much every single day. And it's obviously broken up into what our hormones are doing. And depending on the day and the timing or the spot that we're in our cycle will influence our mood, our energy levels, and like our ability to even like get shit done. And so when you're you know, understanding your cycle, understanding like, oh, for example, I'm bleeding. If you were bleeding, okay, now is not the time to be doing like a really heavy, hard, intense workout. Yeah. Now is maybe not the time to be super, like go to social events and be super extroverted, for example, or even, and I know this can be tricky with work with women, but if you can even think around like when you'll be bleeding and like with work presentations or big work events, like when you're bleeding is not really the time to do that. Or even in the luteal phase when you're feeling more inward, and it is so normal to feel that way. Like that's what I mean by, you know, living with our hormones in our cycles. Yet when we're, say, ovulating in the middle of our cycle, our energy is high, like our hormones,
ready to go.
We're ready to go. We're, you know, we have a high libido. We're more, like we are even more attractive to our mates. Like we are giving out a completely different energy. And so, you know, and even as a mum, like you could, when you know that you're ovulating and say you have the kids for the day and you're like, oh, cool, like we're going to go on a big adventure today. We're going to go and catch like the ferry and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that's really cool. But if you were like, cool, I'm going to do that and my period's about to come, or when I'm bleeding, you would feel markedly different on that day, and you would feel like you are probably a little bit more irritated. You wouldn't have as much energy. You might feel like a little bit crampy or a little bit in pain. Like you might have a headache or whatever, like just feel more inward, and you might not have as good a time and be just like completely maxed out on doing that exact same thing in your, you know, ovulation window versus your late luteal or your like early like bleeding phase. And so that's the beauty of cycle awareness, is that we can, if your cycle is regular, you can look at the calendar and be like, oh, cool, like I am going to be ovulating around that time, like that should be fine. Yeah. Or even when we are ovulating and we say, yeah, like we say yes to so much stuff. But if we say yes to all this stuff that's in 2 weeks when we're about to bleed, like it's about knowing that and like trying to schedule and just be aware of where you might be, how you might be feeling depending on your own cycle at those times. And that it gives you this big permission slip to go, I am honoring my cycle and my hormones and my body. And the beautiful thing about this is if you can rest more when you're bleeding, if you can say, and you know, say you have a partner and they understand hopefully what your cycle is doing too, and you say to them like, babe, I'm bleeding at the moment, like I just really want to have a really quiet weekend, or I want to, you know, just kind of do the bare minimum and just go inward and, you know, have an easy day. The more that you can rest when that's happening, the less symptomatic your cycle is going to be in that luteal phase when you have PMS and you've got sore breasts and you've got, you know, lower back pain and all those things. So, and that's without doing any supplementation or anything more specifically. It's actually just like you reap the benefits. And I wish more women knew about this, because I think thankfully it's getting more and more common to have these conversations, but it's just without changing anything. It's just having that awareness in your cycle of like, what can I do? What can't I do? Or what do I want to pull back on that really drains me, that I don't have the energy for, and putting those loving, kind boundaries up during that time, and then knowing when you are ready to shine and ready to, you know, mingle and do all the things.
Yeah. And I think it's doing it without the guilt as well. Like I'm still learning this myself, like, you know, really just tuning into my body and what I need. Like yesterday I had such a chill morning, because I'm like, do you know what? I'm not feeling 100%, and I'm just going to like enjoy the sunshine, have a slow morning, go get coffee and stuff before I start my day. And in the past, there would have been so much guilt attached to that at the same time. Like, oh, no, I need to be doing this. I've got my to-do list. I should be here. I should be there. I've got, like, to send this to that person. And everything is going on in your head. And by you sometimes just taking that time to, you know, honour yourself, as you said, and slow down, it's actually giving back to yourself, that then you'll be able to then give back even more.
Absolutely.
It's without guilt.
Absolutely. That's it. And I used to have that as well. Like I've been unlearning this conditioning as well for years.
It's a life's journey.
It's a life journey, right? Like deconditioning yourself. And the amount of guilt that I would have if I wasn't being productive pretty much at all times. And I think also the layer of being a mum too is that when you say like your kids are at daycare, or you have like say protected work time where you don't have your kids around and they're being minded by someone, you want to get shit done. Yeah. And so, you know, being able to balance that with like, okay, when do I need time to myself, like have a slow morning maybe and my kids are, or like do something for myself. There's a lot of guilt that women and mothers face when they do take time out for themselves in that way. But yeah, just the guilt that I would feel by doing that. And now the more, it's like exposure therapy, the more that I do it, and the more that I normalize it within myself and have these conversations, the more that my body is feeling a lot more safe to do that and to receive and to go, oh, actually, you don't have to be working your ass off or being in client consultations like all the time to live the life that you need to live, you know, like it's designing your life in a way that suits you and suits your own rhythms and allows you to tap into your own feeling for the day, your own cycle day, like what cycle day am I, your own, just how you're feeling in general. Or even like it's winter at the moment, we had a huge sickness week last week in our house, and I still felt a little bit of guilt. I took the whole week off, like I didn't step foot into the clinic. I did not have one client consultation or anything. I couldn't talk because I had strep throat. So the universe is like, you're not working anyway. But I was just being, and my 4-year-old was also sick with me. So we just did nothing. And we just gave ourselves, well, I gave her permission and myself to do nothing, rest, like play games, like just like lounge on the couch, you know. And once upon a time that would have like the guilt would have been so intense. But like when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, you're sick, you need to rest. But like it's so pervasive and so backward that once upon a time that guilt would have been,
and you just push through. You
would push through. You would have been like, no, I'm good. Like I don't have time for this. It's like that rushing. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I still had this bit of guilt. I have an online coaching container that I run, and I had a couple of one-on-ones booked for the women in there for that week, and even our group coaching call, and I had to cancel. And I said, guys, like, I'm so sorry, but I also need to like walk my talk here. And I think they really appreciate that, like, of course you're human. And they understand I've got 2 little girls as well. And they're like, well, of course, like no one cares. You put so much pressure on yourself to turn up and keep pushing. But like in the long term, it's only going to end in burnout. And I've had many episodes of burnout. Like I think a lot of people, you know, having these conversations, a lot of women have burnt out multiple times and every time they learn something new. And I think it's really important, but it takes time, right? It takes time to unpack.
And it's like trusting yourself as well. Like whatever that feeling is, it's like going, rather than going, oh, I need to do this, it's like actually trusting yourself that, okay, what do I need in this moment, rather than like going, I should. Like it's such a dance, isn't it? Like a fine line. For like you work with obviously so many women across different stages of their life as well. What would be, if someone's like listening to this and they're starting out and they don't even like know about nervous system, or they don't even know about their cycles, like what would you say like the 5 key foundations for them to really focus on, whether that's nutrition, whether that's sleep or something along those lines? What actually should they be focusing on?
Probably number 1 would be self-awareness. And so self-awareness within, like, for a woman who is cycling, that would be my number 1 tip, is to start tracking your cycle. So download a free app and start to understand what your body is telling you at different times of your cycle. You will have different signs and symptoms, and some of the time they are very they're very subtle. But if we start to understand, okay, like a lot of women know, like obviously when they're bleeding, but then they're like, I couldn't tell you when I'm in my luteal phase, when I'm in my follicular phase, when I'm ovulating. But actually our body is giving us these signs and symptoms all the time, and a lot of it is cervical mucus changes. So even that, like cycle awareness around like, what is my cervical mucus doing? Like every time I go to the toilet, what can I feel? Like what's happening there? Is it dry? Is it like egg whitey? Like what's going on? So I think that's one big thing, is like track your cycle or have some awareness around what your hormones are doing. Number 2 would be like going back to foundations. And I think sleep is such a foundation for our health, for our nervous system, for our immune function, for everything. And I think it just, for a lot of people these days, it's just an afterthought, to be honest. And I like, everyone knows how important it is, but we really need to, I talk to my clients all the time, and like, we need to almost parent ourselves. Like sometimes we need to like have that voice inside that goes like, yeah, no one's telling you to go to bed right now, and you could scroll your phone for another 3 hours and like, you know, get into the realms of all the reels and TikTok and, you know, do a death scroll. But actually, what's the better thing that you could be doing right now? Like set some loving boundaries on yourself. And I talk all the time about sleep hygiene in one-on-one sessions with clients of like, cool, like maybe we can, and you know, our phones are addictive. Like they are designed to be addictive. They are designed to pull us in, and for us to waste an hour when we just wanted to go on and check one thing that usually would take 2 seconds. And so it's precious time, like to reframe that sleep as like, this is so important. This is so precious for our health and the way that it sets us up for the day in every way, from our mood to our energy to our hormones. So, you know, really like protecting that time and going, right, well, say, you know, I can scroll on the couch, or I can watch TV, or I can have a conversation with my partner, or do whatever I want up until a certain time, maybe 8:30 or 9 or whatever. Like set yourself a time. If you need to, put an alarm on your phone for that to go off, and then you go into your room. And I've had conversations where I'm like, then you plug your phone in away from your bed. Yep. Like you put it on the other side of the room.
Break the habits and the cycles.
If you cannot trust yourself to just put it down next to you on your bedside table, and you're going to scroll in bed, like allow your bed to be the place where you sleep and you have sex, and that's it. Like you don't go on your phone, because we're so used to that, and it just sets us up in such a bad way. So, and almost like for a lot of mothers I speak with, I talk about a reverse sleep in. So like often they can't help getting up at 5 because that's when their baby, their toddler wakes up and they're up for the day. So having a reverse sleep in, they can control when they go to bed a lot of the time. And often the bedtime of our kids is a little bit earlier. So then, you know, I get that so many parents want that alone time, but also going to bed and having that like early bedtime and looking at it as a reverse sleep in and getting those hours like is just so important. So that's super foundational. I think from a nutrition point of view, like there's a lot I could say here, but I think if it was like one piece of advice, it would be have breakfast before coffee, and have a good amount of protein in that breakfast. Like it will make or break your day. And 10 years doing this and I still harp on about it every single day to clients around like it is so important to have a high protein breakfast within 90 minutes at least of waking, like to support that circadian rhythm, but to support your energy across the day. And it's not that you won't even feel it initially, you'll feel it at 3 p.m. when you would usually crash. Like you will feel if you have a really beautiful high protein breakfast and then coffee after or coffee with if you have to, then you are going to feel markedly different at 3 p.m. versus the days where you just have coffee for breakfast and that's it and you don't eat again till lunch or you don't eat full stop till lunch. Fasting for women is like not really ideal for like obviously there's specific circumstances that I would recommend it, but really like fasting and a lot of women like do the accidental fast, like, oh, I'm fasting, I'm doing this fasting thing, this trendy thing, because I just don't have breakfast I don't eat until midday or whatever. But actually for a lot of women who are burnt out, whose nervous systems are in that dysfunctional space constantly, it's fasting is a stressor and it's saying to their body it's not safe, right? So eating, having macro balanced meals across the day, and taking care of yourself in that way, like it's instant. Yeah, and I say to people like, do an experiment, like do one day where you eat, one day where you don't, and see how it goes. Like don't take my word for it. Like actually do it. So that's 3.
Yeah.
I just keep coming back to like understanding your own habits and patterns. Essentially, like there is nothing better than understanding, because if you don't understand yourself and how you feel and how your nervous system functions and and what your triggers are and how your blood sugar crashes at 3 p.m, like everyone's a little bit different, and if you don't understand your own stuff, then how can you change it? Like how can you if you're not aware of things, how can you change it? You can't. So that's always like self-awareness is always the number one. So becoming curious.
It's my favorite word. Being curious,
like having that like lens of curiosity, like interesting. It's 2 days before my period and I've got a headache again. Yeah. Interesting. Could this be hormonally related? Like I'm always asking about, okay, where was that in your cycle? Because there's so much there. Like our bodies are so innately intelligent and I think we forget that, right? Like
it's always communicating to you as well, but so often we're just like, okay, I'll move on to the next thing and not even recognize, like they just go, I've got a headache, rather than going, okay, I've got a headache, but why? Yeah.
What is my body trying to say here? I think the other thing is that I would say is like community and connection is another big one. And it's so important. I think the people that you surround yourself with are so incredibly important. And if you are in like a toxic work environment or just any environment where you just feel like unsafe, you have a choice. You have a choice, and you feel like you don't sometimes, but we have so many choices in life, and sometimes they're hard choices. Like sometimes it takes a lot, like to leave a job or put a boundary in place with a family member or whatever it is, but you have choice. Yeah. And, that's the beautiful thing. Like we have choice. And so sometimes we really need to get real and understand, am I being a victim to my life, and am I, saying, oh, it's just the way that it is, or it's just the way that she is, or it's just how it is. Like, no. Yeah. That is not true. We always have choices. Right. And it's just that sometimes the choice that we don't want to make, it's just hard. Yeah. So removing yourself from environments that drain you, and like everyone knows from their gut instinct, their intuition, 100%. The way that they feel after being in a certain environment. And when you put yourself in environments with people who are aligned with you, who build you up and don't break you down, who don't gossip about you, who actually are authentically, there and support you, like that is just magic. And I constantly have this conversation with my team at the clinic, because we are also aligned, and to go to work, like if any of us are in a bad mood or whatever, we just have to come into the clinic and we just instantly come out of our bad moods because we just are around each other. We make each other laugh. We're there to support each other in any way. And we just all the time reflect on how grateful we are to have cultivated this environment within the team that it feels so easy, so natural, so beautiful. And there's none of that, like there's no gossiping. There's there's none of that negativity, like negativity or that toxic energy. And I forget until clients talk to me about, how toxic their workplace is or whatever, that exists. You know, like I forget that it can be like a bloody like school where people are bitching about each other. I'm like, oh, that's right. That's how a lot of people are navigating their lives. And it's just so draining. So I think, you know, being really aware of people's energy and their influence, that influence on you. And when you are walking away from a conversation or being in the presence of someone and you feel drained and you feel like, I don't feel good, take note. When you walk away from someone and feel uplifted and positive and like energized, take note. Like, again, we have the choice and the power to put ourselves in those environments that help to build us up rather than keep us stuck in this like victim toxic like mindset that keeps us going around and around.
I think this is where communication comes into play as well, because like you might feel that, and then like say if you're with friends or something like that, or at the workplace or something like that, that's still within your control. Like, are you actually communicating your needs? Are you communicating, like, actually that conversation's not okay? Like, you're constantly telling people how to treat you by what you actually stand for and what you're saying back to them. And it's this communicate, like, get curious in how you're feeling. B, communicate it. And then, like, if it's not received in the way that you thought that it was going to be received, I think that's your answer as well, right?
100%.
So communication, like, goes hand in hand here, but you have to, I guess, communicate with yourself first before you can communicate externally.
That's it. And I think like it's, for example, in a work environment where there's like maybe a lot of gossip happening or whatever, and it can be really easy. That's where the self-awareness comes in too. It can be really easy like when that's like the go-to, the done thing within this group of people, and you find yourself also contributing. I know that I've definitely been in this situation where certain people I'm around, like they gossip more or they talk about people, whatever, and realizing, I actually don't like that. Like, but I find myself going in and doing that behavior. And once you realize what's going on, you're like, oh no, actually, I'm going to change my behavior and I'm going to communicate and say, actually, let's talk about something else. Or you refrain from, you know, joining in on that behavior and you say something about it. You know, I think, again, but it comes back to that self-awareness piece. It comes back to your own values. It comes back to so much.
Standards.
Your standards, you know, and really that sets, and it influences our nervous systems as well, right? It influences how safe we feel. So it's all so connected.
It is.
Yeah.
I have a question in regards to like sports nutrition, right?
Yep.
And because online, when you look online and you go, okay, I want to be healthy or I want to like, you release weight or whatever it is, like there is a lot of contradictory information, especially when it comes to sports nutrition, where they like are purely based on calories and calorie deficit, right? And then, but it's not necessarily the healthiest of food that's like, you know, nutrient dense. What's the difference there? Because I feel like, especially online in the sports side of things, like it's so different to whole foods and that like, how do we know what is actually which one to follow and what's going to be best for us?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that sports nutrition, like when we're really looking at sport and athlete and, you know, elite sport and performance, like we are looking at, okay, what kind of macronutrient breakdown do I need to be consuming to fuel my body in the right way, and what does that look like? Does it look like high GI carbs? Does it look like I need like really easy to digest carbohydrate in the form of like, you know, a gel or something like that versus like, oh no, I need just like a whole food meal to kind of like, you know, fuel my afternoon gym session. I think like it depends on like when you say sport nutrition, depends on like like how like what we're talking about here. Is it like your weekend warrior or is it actually like for, you know, training specifically? But I think also just like more widely there, it's when it comes to say like weight loss and, you know, eating for body composition and that. I mean, I am of the opinion like professionally that whole foods matter. Yeah. And vitamins and nutrients that come from whole foods, our body knows what to do with them. Yeah. So predominantly, no matter what you're doing, I would always, you know, argue for a whole food diet that also meets your macronutrient needs for performance.
Yeah.
But I think there's lots of products, there's lots of, conveniently packaged snacks and different foods and whatnot that we are sold for performance or for, to cut corners or whatever. And, whilst I'm not black and white against those, and I'm very much like 80-20, I think that predominantly, like, that is my stance is you're going to get more. Yeah. Not only just your calories and your macronutrients, like your proteins, your carbs, your fats, but your minerals. Like someone can be eating that whole thing, like eating if it fits your macros. That concept of like, it doesn't matter what you eat as long as it fits your macros. And whilst that can help someone to understand what their macronutrients are, someone can be eating a macronutrient like adequate diet if they were told, okay, you need this amount of carbs, this amount of fat, this amount of protein, and that can fit in, like you could have Mars bars and like whatever, but they could be eating like still a nutritionally deplete diet. So it is of my opinion that like, pretty much no matter how you swing it, like you're really aiming for whole food options where you can, and there's always going to be whole food options. But then when you get to the more like, elite athletes and you're fueling for, say marathons or triathlons or things like that, even like those, convenient like little gel packs that you can get and whatnot, even with those, you can get ones that are a lot more whole food based. Yeah. Like you still consuming like more of like, maybe it might be more like a fruit juicy type thing rather than just like a whole bunch of chemicals put together. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's just an interesting one because like I've got a girlfriend at the moment who is working with a sports nutritionist, and she's like, I feel like shit. Yeah. Like she might be losing weight, and then she's like, I just had to go and do a home cooked meal because it's like crumpets and this and like and I was just and it's so, as I said, so contradictory. Like okay, if you talk to this person, like, you can have Freddo frogs or you can have chocolate and you can have this and that, but then it's not like if you just eat that every day, like you're going to naturally feel like shit. Because there's still sugar content and process and everything like that. So it's like, okay, well, what one do I do? Because it's all over the place.
That's it.
I mean?
And again, it's just my philosophy is 80% like whole food and, make stuff at home when you can, and you're like just eating real food, right? 20% of the time, like have that meal out where you don't know what's in it, or have your croissant on a Sunday with your family, like whatever. It's very important to have that, I think, flexibility in your diet where you're not like, because you can go down the other like extreme end of like eating control. 100% whole food, has to be 100% organic, blah 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 blah, and it's like, and you get anxious if it's not, or if that's out of your control. Like I've seen that happen as well, and then like orthorexia happen from that. So it's a sliding scale. Everyone's a little bit different, but I think like my general rule of thumb with all my clients is like most of the time, and if you break it up and you go, right, well, if I'm eating like breakfast, lunch, dinner 7 days a week, that's 21 meals. If you go, right, what's 80% of that is like, maybe a handful of meals, like maybe 3 or 4 meals come to the 20%, right? So that means 3 or 4 meals across the week are like soul meals. They're my soul food, right? Like they're when I have, drinks and dinner out on a Saturday night with, with my friends. Fine, great. But if you're having those things like, every single night, or, you're having a lot more, it's more 50-50. It's just like, okay, what are we trying to achieve here? What are your health goals? Like, what are we trying to do really? And so it comes back a lot to that. But the 80-20 has served me really well. And I think the relationship with food, I think like with my clients, like I really think about that all the time, especially with my psych background. And I try to protect that relationship with food with my clients, in never do I now really give really strict dietary protocols or anything like that. And especially with the people I work with now who are mainly mothers, because I'm really conscious of damaging that relationship with food. Like it's not just about food is fuel, like food is many things, but it is beautiful. And when it's in that whole food form, like our body knows what to do with it. And we get those beautiful nutrients that will often come together in foods. So
I love food.
Same. I'm thinking about it now.
I know, my tummy started grumbling then. I was like, oh no. Are there any other like Is there anything that you were hoping, any question that you were hoping I would ask today that I didn't get a chance to ask, or anything that you wanted to touch on? Like, I feel like we spoke about a lot of different things that we could definitely go into more depth about.
Yeah. Not really. I think, I guess we already talked about it, which is, you know, I think cultivating the life that, like, we have the power to cultivate the life that we really want. And I think a lot of people think that they don't, and we do a lot of, in our head, like, it's almost like we keep ourselves locked in these prison cells in our own minds where we think that we can't do X, Y, Z, or we put these limitations on ourselves, but they're just self-imposed limitations. And so I have a really growth-orientated mindset, and I've had that all my life, but I love being around people who also have that, and you can really share your dreams together and really be like encouraged and motivated by each other. And that goes for friends and family, and just being able to be yourself and to really look at the vision of what you're trying to create. And I think it's really powerful. And so anyone listening who's stuck in a job they don't like, or they're stuck in a circumstance that's not serving them. I'm not saying that it's so easy to just leave that or walk away, but I am saying that you have the power and the choice to change. And there are so many people who are realizing these days that actually doing the whole, you know, settle down, find a partner, get married, buy a house, have a baby, climb the corporate ladder, blah, 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 blah.
Tick, tick,
tick, tick, tick. Yeah. Actually isn't fulfilling. And so I love that people like yourself are going, hang on a second, this is not what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore, even though I maybe did a degree or multiple degrees to get here because society told us that we should. Your life is what you make it, and you can pivot at any point. And it feels scary sometimes to start again, or to walk away from a job that you've been in and secure for a long time, or a relationship that has given you security, but maybe you've outgrown, whatever it is. But you have the choice to change your life in an instant, and we are often so scared by that. But I think it's so empowering to know that life can change, and it can change quickly, and you don't have to live in a life that you don't enjoy.
Yeah. I think what you said there as well, like, and it, you know, if you go by society and like the tick, 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 you know, you leave school, you get the degree, then you're like, okay, I want to meet the partner. Now I want to get married. Now I want to buy the house. Now I want a kid. I want to get a certain state in my career. So like, if you look at it from a society age perspective, that you're probably in your 30s, right, by that stage. Then there's nothing, like, from a society perspective, from there until you retire, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of people do then get into that space where they're like, well, what now? What's next? Because now I'm like, every single day is just on repeat. And that's where I feel like a lot of people are then, in a way, having the awakening, or they're going, okay, this life is not for me. And yes, I mean, don't get me wrong, like all the family and stuff like that. But like in terms of, okay, for the next 30 years doing this exact same thing for 30 years, no, I don't want that. And that's when people are starting to go, okay, well, connecting back to themselves and who they are and what do I want and what do I stand for and what are my values and what's this and how do I feel and who am I around, and like they start to question everything, which is such a beautiful space. And that's why spaces like yours and being environment is such a key part, because like you're not alone, because so many people feel that, and that's where that disconnection or that sense of loss, or hey, I've got like so many options here, or like that kind of fork in the road, like what's next, and they lack the purpose and the fulfillment. So it's such a key part to come back to yourself. Absolutely.
And just on that too, like in the space that I work with mothers, I see huge career changes with mothers, and it happened I didn't change my career, but I changed like the way that I was working when I had my daughter. Like, it is the biggest catalyst when you have a baby and you're like, oh, I now have to go back to work and I'm leaving my baby in someone else's care while I'm working. And how does that sit with me? And actually, if I'm going to leave my baby, like I want to be, like for me personally, it was like, if I'm going to leave my baby in daycare, like I want to be doing work on my terms. I want to be building I want to be building a business and a vision that is really, really deeply important to me and my community. And I want to make a difference in the world because, and this is just me personally, but like if I didn't have that, if I was stuck in a monotonous job that was just the same thing over and over, like a lot of women can't like come to me and go, I don't want to do this anymore because their whole lens has shifted after having a family. And so, yeah, it's a big, but again, that corresponds to, you know, a lot of women are having babies in their 30s. So that same kind of age, kids or not, where people are going like, actually, is this it? Or how do I want to turn up? And am I happy to, like some people are absolutely happy to be in a job and they're like, just the security is fine. I don't care if I do the same thing every day for the rest of my life. Yeah. It pays the bills and that's all I need it to do. And that's so fine. Everyone's different in their personality. But yeah, I do think it's a big thing that I'm seeing, and I love it. I love women are starting businesses, like mothers are starting businesses, and they're taking these leaps that are scary, and maybe once upon a time more frowned upon by society, who expect the you know, the tick. But I love it because I'm like, good on you for you know, following your dreams. Like when you get to your deathbed at 80, 90 years old, like what regrets are you gonna have? Like, and if you just were too scared and too stuck to actually do something even though you really wanted to, like, are you going to say, I regret not chasing that goal or not chasing that career or that vision or whatever it is? So I love what I'm seeing unfold in people rejecting the narrative of you've got to do this, this and this.
Yeah.
The shoulds, like my husband and I have done it in a different way in that we don't own our house currently because we put all of our what would have been our deposit into our businesses. We both own businesses and we've invested in that way. But like it's just so interesting. Like even like my dad and like and stepmom, like at first they were like, oh, you know, like they were quite unsure whilst some of my siblings were doing the tick, tick, tick thing. And it was just like, oh, well, I'm going to do it this way. And I'm so grateful that I know that we'll get our house. Like it's so fine. I know it's coming. But the way that I've built it, like my life in reverse and almost having 10 years of study to figure out like, what do I actually want to do with this? Like, how do I want this to actually land? And it's been a bit of a rocky road, but I think it's just been so amazing to finally like land here and go, yeah, I'm actually building the life of my dreams. Yeah. And it doesn't, you know, no, I haven't ticked every single box. But, you know, there's people having kids and not getting married at all or having kids and not having a partner at all or, you know, like whatever. Like,
so whatever works for you. I don't think like there's one, like there's not one thing that is going to fit for everyone. No. Like, yeah.
There's not one thing about like this is the successful like this is the formula to success, where I think like society has sold us this idea where this is the formula, you do this, and then you're set for life. And it's like, well, actually, no. And if you have a look at those, you know, the people like like our parents' generation and how they've built their lives and they've stayed in their career and they've done the monotony and whatnot, like not everyone's happy. It's just because they had to, they had to, right? Or they thought they had to, and that was just what they had to do. But our generation, like, or, you know, the generations below are understanding we can do things differently and that's okay.
Absolutely. And I love that so much. Like everyone's different, and that's why you need to understand like who you are and like connect back to yourself as well. And then like, go after that.
Yeah. The amount of people that go like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like anymore. Yeah. That's the tricky part. So they stay in what is known to them, right?
Safety piece.
The safety. But that then goes back to like all the way back to what we've already talked about around self-awareness, understanding like who you are, understanding like what you need, what you like, what lights you up. And everyone has something, but sometimes people just haven't given themselves a chance to understand that.
Yeah.
So it goes back to that, like for a healthy, happy life, I think to have that self-inquiry, that curiosity is just so important to understand, is my life going in the way that I want it to?
Yeah. Such a beautiful way to end the conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and there's so much value, I think, in this particular conversation. And we touched on so much. So I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Anytime. Really enjoyed our full circle
I know,
moment
it's
as
crazy.
well. Like, thank you so much for having me.